And we're back. Part two, how to get your clients out of a performance slump. David Feldman-Makrias here, blah, 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 blah. So let's get right back into the situation. If you haven't seen part one, you should watch part one because it's helpful. But part two is also going to be helpful. Okay. Make my face smaller. Okay, artichoke. For cohesiveness, I made it this size. All right, cool. So we talked about, just to recap, we talked about last time, you got to keep yourself calm. You got to analyze the data. You have to research. You got to set check-ins, super important. Don't make too many changes all at once. And again, I'm not going to go through all of the stuff we talked on the part one video because you should watch part one. And plus, most of the main points are bullet pointed out for you. So let's continue with part two. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we need to come up with a plan. We need to come up with a plan. Well, obviously, right, David? Like, how are we going to do this? I'm emotional. I'm stressed out. My client's yelling at me. They don't know what to do. And I don't know what to do. I need to come up with a plan. The best way I like to plan things is by if then. You research, and you come up with the best possible. After your research, come up with a list of strategies you want to try, you want to test. Implement. This is like a next best steps list, okay? Compile that. That should be your big compilation of strategies from everything that you see. So then once you do that, you need to formulate an if-then function, basically. So what you'll do is you'll take your first best strategy, whatever that is. I'm going to tweak this campaign by this target, or I'm going to add these keywords, or I'm going to test this creative, whatever it is, come up with the best, your top 10 list of strategies. Because the thing with digital, especially campaigns, you can change so many things. You can change budget, you can change targeting, you can change audience, which one's going to be most effective, which one's going to be least effective, blah, 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 blah. That's where your research comes in. And keep watching my channel if you want to know that what goes into the meat and potatoes of that blah, 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 blah. But once you do that, it's really important to come up with the if-then statement. So if this happens, then we're going to do this. So first you're going to have like your top strategies, right? Strategy one. If this strategy works and shows improvement over set time frame, leave it the hell alone and let it keep going. That would be the thing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That kind of deal. Always, you want to make minor tweaks and changes always, but if it's not broken, don't fix it. So if your strategy one works, great. Well, if it doesn't, then you got to go to strategy two. And then you got to go to strategy three and strategy four and blah, 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 blah. But you should have set time frames to evaluate. Like if you're expecting it's going to work in 2 hours, good luck. I don't think that's ever happened to me. But you should see a generation of traction within set time frames. And I'm going to get into that in just a second because I think it's extremely important because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I just want to give you like what I've seen to be best practices. So hopefully that makes sense. Strategy two, strategy three, so on and so on. That's how I come up with the plan. And you can apply the same principles to whatever plan you're trying to adhere to and come up with as well. Also, one thing I want to note here, you want to have backup plans. And this helps alleviate the emotions and also helps alleviate client expectations. That way you're really aware and you can tell your clients, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the best strategy that I've researched and found. because of this, this, and this, right? It's basically a hypothesis. This is the best strategy that I've found we should go towards because A, B, C, whatever. 3 bullets. Um, if this doesn't work, or it doesn't work the way we intend, I don't even like to say words like doesn't work because you're already putting that in their mind. If this doesn't work the way we intend it to work, see the difference there? A lot about the language, what kind of language we're using. Um, if this doesn't work the way or if this doesn't work the way we intend, or whatever, then we're going to have backup plan B, backup plan C, whatever the case may be, to get them back on track so they know, okay, they'll hang in there with you. They know that you got it. They know that you put in the research. They have trust in you, and that you have thought of other instances and what to do. That's what you do. And that makes a good business owner too, because you're thinking about the entire picture. So that is everything I have with come up with the plan. Okay, next, let's establish a time frame. Outer bullet point. My entire life is bullet points. Okay, you want to establish a time frame, right? So that's part of your plan. Uh, I'm including it as a separate section because I think it could be talked about at length. So I mentioned in here week sprints. Most testing needs to be 30, 60, 90, but things should be trending in a positive direction within the first 7 days. Let me explain what this means. Specifically to Google Ads, right? Because that's the, priority in bulk of the business that I handle. Still do social media, still do a lot of other things, but Google Ads is the main, like one of the more complex platforms, I think, in advertising because of the different variables and complexities you can change. So let's start with the most complex and integrated first and work our way out. So same principles apply. So we'll say Google Ads example. I like to say if I'm trying to test something and we're trying to get performance back on track, I like week sprints. So what does that mean? So if I'm going to make a change, I want to see some sort of result in a week. What does that mean? Okay. Because a lot of people, if I just said that, would disagree with my statement. They would say, "What, a week? What do you mean? You need more time. Campaigns haven't learned fully. David doesn't know what he's talking about. Blah, 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 blah. All this. I get it. Machine learning, algorithms, they haven't fully adapted. Your campaign's not sophisticated enough, hasn't reached enough of its audience, hasn't gone through the budget fluctuations, hasn't done enough testing on all the platforms, doesn't, all this stuff. I understand, right? But I still like to have a week sprint. What does that mean? So I need to see some positive inclination, trending in the right direction, something. Give me some positive direction in a week. And this is where you can rely on the vanity metrics too. So, for instance, like this positive direction within the first week. This really should be here. We need to see some sign of light at the end of the tunnel. Now, in the part two, we talked about analyzing the data and measuring what's important. You have your priority metrics and you have your vanity metrics. Well, sometimes, especially with tracking and all the different changes that the different platforms are undergoing, sometimes your main metrics won't be as visible to you as they should be, right? Like maybe you can't track purchases and conversions the right way because maybe, who knows, you're messing around with Google Tag Manager and you're trying to make sure all the scripts are functioning correctly and all that good stuff. Maybe you can't see all the purchases. Maybe you have two separate conversion trackings, even though they look like they're the same in the back end code, but they're functioning differently and you don't know what is what. That could happen too. It's happened to me multiple times. So what I mean by this is we need to see positive direction within the first 7 days. This can be with main metrics and or vanity metrics. Like, okay, a Google person or a Google rep might say, hey, a Google person, a Google rep might say, hey, we need to, I'm losing my train of thought. We need to test this for a month. Cool. So if a campaign launches and I have 10 impressions for the first 3 days, am I going to continue down that month? No, no. I know something's not right, right? I know there's something not correct. So I need to go back and I need to fix it. Even if you have a baseline of impressions, a baseline of clicks, a baseline, whatever, you can measure other metrics that work up to your main metrics because that's the point of vanity metrics. They are metrics to indicate the health of your campaign to lead to your main metrics. Clicks, impressions, CTR, video views. Video views can be actually very important as far as purchases and sales, but all those metrics lead up to your main metrics of purchases and sales, and you have to work backwards. So when you're first launching, I want to see positive direction, maybe not necessarily within the first 7 days actually getting purchases, especially if you're launching a new campaign for a new account that doesn't have purchase conversion history. However, I should be able to see some positively trending items in the account within the first 7 days. I should be able to see baseline of clicks. I should be able to see baseline of impressions. I should be able to see a click through rate that is somewhere reasonable to what I expected. And I should be looking at this, especially in the first day of launching, especially within the first 3 days of that 7 days. And it should be trending in a positive direction. Then you got some highlights to show. You say, hey, to the client, our campaign's lifted and we have clicks and impressions, which is good. We don't have any sales yet, but I don't expect to see any until this time frame, right? So then you keep setting the expectation. You're walking them. Crawl, walk, run. That's what you have to get down to in the nitty gritty. And that's why I say, like most testing, you need 30, 60, 90 days, right? That's most testing. You need a month, you need 2 months, you need 3 months. Honestly, though, I mean, don't just use that as like, oh no, David said I need 30 days. David said I need 60 or 90. Those are just baseline benchmarks. It could be a lot longer than that. I've had SEO campaigns that go for years, and I don't see any tangible results till month 9. But I managed to set the expectation the right way. The client understood. The client industry was very specific and niche. So it's like you need time frames that make sense, right? You need time frames that make sense for the service, client industry, and overall business model, and purchase history too. That's a purchase. I'm going to say historical data. That's a big one too. If you have a client that has been active for a decade and has been running ads for half a decade and they have considerable purchase history, well, it's going to take a lot less time for them, for that campaign or that account to actually learn and function the way it needs to be, versus if you had a client if you had a client account that actually launched in 90 days ago and you make a big change or you're facing some performance slumps, well, it could take a lot longer to learn, or the expectation of time frame should be a lot different. So hopefully that gives you some insight of how to establish timeframes and do it in a reasonable way that's agile and flexible and makes sense for whatever client and application you're serving. Okay, next, don't necessarily wait for permission or approval. Now this gets a little bit hairy, right? You have to, within reason. Okay, and I want to discuss some examples so you kind of know the philosophy and the principles of how to proceed. A lot of what I see, like people that don't know, or people that may not be as educated in the platform, or what have you, or may not have the longevity and experience, oftentimes ask for a lot of permission. Like, okay, we're going to do this. Is this okay? And then clients are busy a lot, right? Clients are busy. Yeah, clients are busy a lot. So, like, especially if you're dealing with small business owners, it's not just like they're sitting around waiting for your email. Sometimes, they're working other jobs. Sometimes they're handling multiple accounts. Sometimes they're traveling for work, just like you if you're an entrepreneur. So, you have to be mindful of their schedule and just know that they're not going to just wait around for your email. At least most of them won't, unless you're dealing with maybe a specific marketing director or someone that it's their full job is to do this. So I don't necessarily wait for permission because a lot of items can get stuck, right? And I think speed is everything. I just had a call with a client a week ago, and we're waiting on this project. And I asked, I actually did the opposite of what I'm saying. I waited for permission, and she called me. She's like, David, don't ask for that anymore. Just keep moving forward. Assume we want to do it, and assume we want to move forward. The reason I did ask for permission, though, and you have to know when to ask for permission, but know when to ask for it. The reason I did ask for permission in that instance is because it had to do with money. Anytime it has to do with money, meaning they're going to spend less, spend more, this and that, blah 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 blah. Especially if it's large sums, yeah, you want to get them on the same page. That's for sure, right? You want to make sure that everything is working copacetically and you're on the same page as far as money. If especially running ad campaigns, I run ad campaigns that range in you know, from 50 grand to $150,000 spent per month. So for one account. So moving that type of money, especially for a small business, you definitely want to make sure you're over communicating. Like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Does this make sense? Can I do this? Am I good? And usually it's good. But that you have to ask permission for. Ask permission for anything money/monetary related, right? But if you're communicating with a client vendor, let's say, and they need access to something that you already know the client wants to do, just give it to them, take it over. Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I find this tip really, really helpful, especially if clients are limited in their understanding of exactly what you're doing, especially if they have limited knowledge in Google Ads or social media campaigns or whatever it is, which more than likely they will have less knowledge than you, and because you're supposed to be the expert, right? And sometimes they'll be less tech savvy, sometimes they'll be really tech savvy, but you want to explain things to them in a way that makes sense, and that's what you want to do. Especially if the clients are limited in their expertise in the actual field. If it's something that's non-monetary related or not, it's not going to change their day-to-day super big, but it's only going to push them to the positive, in positive trending directions, then just do it, or you can always just let them know. It's not like you just have to do it and don't tell them. Just say, hey, I'm doing this. Hey, I'm making this new campaign focused on this product that you really want to sell. Shouldn't increase your budget at all, but this is what I'm going to do. And they'll go, okay. Like 99% of the time they do that. The other 1% is if, David, we're not going to have that much in stock. Or, oh, David, we're actually discontinuing that item, or we need to adjust the pictures, or can you wait a couple days? Oh, great. Like that is what the 1% would be. Other times it's like, yeah, do it. Go ahead, move forward. So love that. We're getting down to the end. Final tip: always, 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 always be encouraging. It can really mess with your psyche when clients' performance are inconsistent. It can mess with their psyche. It can mess with your whole day. It can mess with everything. But no matter what, if you follow a lot of the points that I put above, and you're trying your best and you're communicating and you're doing this, even if things don't go right, and a lot of things won't, because a lot of items are really beyond your control, always be encouraging. Always be encouraging. I mean, you have to look at the glass half full, and this is something you have to train yourself to do. Always be encouraging, because we're here to solve a problem. Problems aren't the bane of our existence. And getting clients out of performance slumps, like, that's what you're here to do. That's why if you're the real expert, you can actually do it and do it consistently. And that's why you'll do really well. So always look towards the positive. Always be encouraging, and don't just be encouraging to other people and whatever. Be encouraging to yourself. That's why I think awareness and meditation is so big, because oftentimes your mind goes, "Oh no, it's all going to be doomed." Blah 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 blah. Especially if you're an overthinker like me, it's very easy to get caught in the trap. Like, oh man, this is all just going to go south, or oh, this is going to go terrible, or whatever. No, that's not necessarily true. If I don't do anything, it could. But if I'm doing the right steps, if I'm researching, if I'm communicating, if I'm doing everything that I know to be right, and I'm taking breaks and I'm doing it healthily and I'm monitoring it, but I'm not making too many changes and I'm asking for permission on the right things, but I'm moving things forward. I'm going to say move things forward. That's a better way to title it. Always be encouraging. Say, hey, you know what? I know it's shaky right now. I know performance. I always like to be very careful with the language I use. I don't like to get too much in the negative. Carefully consider the language that you use. Example, I know performance hasn't been. I can't even fake do it because I've been doing it my way for so long. I know performance. I know sales have been down. Okay, you might think like, oh, that's good to use because I'm being aware, and I know this, and I'm stating authority and expertise because I'm paying attention. And I don't like that. I don't like that. Even if that's the case, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I know sales have been down. How about this? I know sales performance has been not as consistent as we intended or hoped. A couple extra words, but look at the difference between this. This is like, if a client reads this, it's like, oh God, he's telling me sales have been down again. Yeah, I know they've been down again, David. I don't care. I just want you to fix it. If you can't fix it, someone else should. Emotions can get to that point, especially if there's significant performance drops. Now, if you see something in your inbox and you're a business owner and you know your sales are down, if you see, say, if you know, and this little attention to detail can make the difference. I know sales performance hasn't I'm not an English person, has not been as consistent as we intended or hoped. See, that says the same thing, but I'm always encouraging. I use positive language, right? Use positive, uplifting language. Always. Because everybody's got problems. Nobody wants to hear about that stuff. Unfortunately, your job as a person communicator, you're going to hear about a lot of problems, a lot of stresses, a lot of this, a lot of that. Be the person that uses the positive, uplifting language. Put people in the right direction. Spread the positivity. Spread the love. Because guess what? A lot of us, even though we got a lot of problems, we got a really good life. A lot of us, and I'm not saying everybody. There's definitely struggles out there. There's definitely. I'm not being negligent to any of the realities that a lot of people struggle. And I do appreciate that. But we have to take into consideration, back to, like, compared to 200 years ago, look, we have electricity, we have Wi-Fi, we have, you know, air conditioning, heat, we have refrigerator, we have laptops and computers, and we can communicate with people, and we have so many good things. We can travel, there's a lot of food that's available, and we have options, and we can work from home and work remote. There's so many. The sun is out today, which is a rarity in Chicagoland, especially, and it's actually somewhat warm, which is even more of a rarity in Chicagoland. Literally, always be encouraging. Always be encouraging, because then you're going to be looked upon as that person that is encouraging, that is persevering, that doesn't take no for an answer, that is going to move in the right direction no matter what. Because guess what? Stuff's going to hit you, man, or woman, whoever I'm talking to. Stuff's gonna fly at you. Stuff's gonna hit you. Stuff's gonna happen that's unexpected. Expect the unexpected, and be okay with it. expect that you're going to go through in a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. Know that your clients are going to do that too, and be calm. Be calm within it. And that's a way to really help everybody stabilize the situation and always be positive. And you'll be amazed at some of the outcomes. Even if you didn't have the right outcome, even if you didn't have the right plan, even if you didn't have whatever, this always be encouraging is going to help you so much in life and in business, and really how to help get out of performance slumps, because then your brain is going to be looking for the positive thing. You're going to be looking for the positive item or strategy or whatever that is going to help increase performance rather than the opposite. Okay, guys, that's it. That's part 2. I hope this helped. I think it's, I've been through a lot of trials and tribulations myself with campaign performance and how to help clients get out of performance slumps. And this is more consulting, but I think this strategy and this outline could really, really help. If this has helped you at all, please give me a like. Comment if you disagree with anything. I want to hear your own strategies. I want to hear what you think of too, because I know that can add to mine. When we're in it together, we'll win it together. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon. Like, subscribe if you enjoyed this content. There'll be plenty more where that came from you. And this has been David Feldman-Makrias. See you later.